Guys, it's me, Alistair the Invoker. I'm happy to announce I have a ton of new additions to the extra deck.
Where'd you find them?
Oh, well, I was invoking all around, Little St. James,
Oh.
Rikers Island,
Oh.
Farfa's chat. Really, really good guy. Come on out, folks!
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. I don't know why this is how Yu-Gi-Oh works now. The best deck in the room is normal, but if you play anything other than the top strategy, you're sleeving up cards that fled to Argentina in the mid-40s. Today's Invoked, but don't get too excited. So here's the list, the top 8 profile from the European WCQ this year, piloted by Danilo Siracusa. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Despite what some Yu-Gi-Tubers who shall not be named would have you believe, the TCG is alive and well. And if you're looking to start your journey into paper, there's no better place to begin than Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. With up-to-the-minute reporting on every major tournament worldwide, searchable and interactable pie charts and deck lists, and all the bells and whistles you've come to expect from one of the best draft and collection management sites on the net, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the place to be. Check it out today at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's inspect Invoked. Invoke's an archetype that's been around for a near decade and has been doing pretty much the exact same thing the entire time. Normal summon Alistair, link off for a light monster, activate Invocation, and make a negate before doing anything of consequence. This single line has been the backbone of dozens of strategies throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. From Invoked, to Invoked Dogmatic Shadow, to Invoked Eldritch, this guy's been splashed just about anywhere they don't need a normal. But these days, given a normal translates to about 55 points of interaction, one negate might not be enough. Until now. Since Alistair is one of the Magistus sages, to coincide with the release of the Chronicles anime, Alistair got some new cards, and they're just criminal. I'm actually shocked. They seem to have engineered a way to get literally every single effect people complain about in a single deck. One of its fusions, Oceanus, is a Macrocosmos. Another, Aeon, is 3 extra deck banishes, and it's also one of the best Super Poly decks ever made. It's almost frustrating how effectively the new cards assist its game plan, just for the game plan to be so unbelievably boring. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, 3 copies of Iwas, Divine Spirit of the Law, who can be banished from the hand or field to add an Alistair from your deck to your hand, and if this card is activated on the field, you can normal summon a spellcaster monster. This can get you a couple of normals over the course of your turn. If a face-up fusion monster you control is sent to the graveyard except by battle while this is in your graveyard, you can special it, then fusion summon an Invoked from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. New Alistair, the Reminiscent, if it's in your hand, can target a spellcaster or a fusion on the field, special itself, and if you do, the monster gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn. If normal or special, they're flipped face up. You can banish an Invoked monster from your extra to add an Invocation or a spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. We are playing Old Alistair alongside this card, Sorcerer of the Swamp, probably one of the biggest standouts of the free agents. If this card is in your hand, you can reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck and banish a material whose name is mentioned on it from the deck, then special this card, and if you do, this card's name is the banished monsters until the end of the turn. We've got 1 copy of Vikram, the Divine Spirit of Artifice. If you have an Alistair in your field or graveyard, you can special this card from your hand, and if special summoned, you can set an Invocation or a spell that mentions it from your deck. And when your opponent activates a card effect in response to your fusion monster's effect activation, you can banish this card you control, negate the effect, and if you do, banish it. This card is searchable over the course of the combo. We've got 1 copy of Crowley as well. This is Little Alistair, and if you use this fusion material, its name can be Alistair the Invoker. If added to your hand, you can special summon it, and if normal or special summoned, you can fusion summon a Magistus or Invoked fusion using monsters from your hand or field. Next up, let's go through the new search spells. 3 copies of Sacred Spirit Sword Iwas. This card is fantastic, but when you activate it, you can't declare attacks except with fusions for the rest of the turn. You can special summon Iwas, or you can take an Alistair from your deck and send it to the graveyard of banishment, or you can look at 3 random face-down cards in your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish one of them. That's right, if you have everything you need, you get to rip again. We've got 3 copies of Invocation Sword, which is a quick play that allows you to fusion summon a fusion monster using monsters you control. If summoning an Invoked, you can return monsters from the banishment to the graveyard, and during your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target an Alistair and an Invocation, shuffle this into the deck, and if you do, add that target to your hand. We've, of course, got 2 of Old Invocation, 3 Magical Meltdown, and a Terraforming for non-engine. We're on 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Fuelos, 2 Perulia, 2 Droll and Lockbird, a Dimension Shifter. That's right, it's a Shifter deck, 3 Super Poly, and a Called by the Grave. In the extra, we have 2 copies of Hyper Invoked Aeon, can be made with 2 fusion monsters that have different attributes, and a fusion summon can banish cards from the field to graveyard up to the number of monsters used as material. Then, if you used 3 or more materials, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish up to 3 cards from it. As a quick, you can declare an attribute and all other monsters on the field become that attribute until the end of the turn. That's right. The least annoying effect on this card screws up attribute math. We've got Invoked Elysium, one copy of Invoked Oceanus, which, while in the main monster zone, can't be targeted for attacks, has to be targeted for attacks rather, and while in the EMZ is just die-fi. Just die-fi. It can be banished from the graveyard to target a fusion monster you control. It gets to attack directly this turn. We've got Mechaba, Aegades, Invoked Babaron, which if special summon can add a Viracom or Gamma summon from your deck to your hand, and spoiler alert, we're playing one of those out of the board. It can be banished from the graveyard to target a fusion you control, and monsters your opponent currently controls whose attack equal to the targeted monster's attack. One copy invokes Soul Wrath, which during the main phase can target a level 6 or lower monster in either graveyard, special and defense, negate its effects, and if in your graveyard can fusion summon an invoked fusion by banishing it from the graveyard and monsters from your field or graveyard as material. One Rajin, one Sea Monster of Theseus for the most common deck 2 Super Poly. And that's right, it still plays Caliga, which prevents you from activating more than one monster effect per turn or attacking with more than one monster during the battle phase. For links, we are on Endymion, Alistair, SP Little Knight, and Artemis. That's right, all of them are there. All of them are there. I guess we are missing Riliona. In the side, we've got 2 copies of Fenrir, 2 copies of Santa Claus, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 2 copies of Ghost Bell, 2 Effect Veiler, Harpy's Feather Duster, Triple Attack, Double Pot of Sloth, and a Gamma Summon. So with that, let's check out some games. Our first match is up against Rolad Azamina. I really like this deck up until the point where they play Spell Canceller, but luckily for us, we are going first. Look at all the Alistairs in our grip. They're going to begin with a copy of Perulia, and thankfully we have a Called by the Grave for that afterwards. We're going to go to our main phase and activate Magical Meltdown. We will grab from deck to hand a copy of Alistair, then normal Alistair in the year of our Lord 2026 for an invocation. Out comes Artemis, and then we'll banish everybody for a Mechaba, so we can use the effect of the invocation to add back Alistair and continue. From here we can use Reminiscent, targeting the Mechaba to summon it to our side of the field, and its effect in order to banish a Raijin. They're going to Ash, we'll negate that using the Crowley in our hand that's doing nothing, and then we'll use the added Invocation Sword to make a Soul Wrath. Soul Wrath effect triggers here. We'll bring back the Alistair the Reminiscent into an Alistair the Invoker of Madness, then Soul Wrath effect for a Babaron. Babaron and Alistair the Invoker of Madness trigger. We're going to go ahead and grab an Invocation and a Viracom. Then afterwards we can trigger the effect of the Viracom to summon it to our side of the field and activate its on-field effect in order to set another copy of Sword. We'll go into an SP Little Knight, activate the effect in order to banish a copy of Babaron, then we'll activate Invocation to make an Oceanus in the EMZ, finally using the effect of the Invocation Sword to cycle back the Invocation so we can activate it in order to make a Caliga. We'll pass back to our opponent, who is under a Negate, a Caliga, and a Macro. They'll go to Diabell Star, attack a single time. We'll activate Invocation Sword in order to go into a Hyper-Invoked Aeon. Then we'll banish absolutely everything from everywhere. Our opponent's going to go to main phase 2, activate Ragged Record of Rights, grab themselves a copy of Black Chaos, then activate the effect of the Griffo in order to set a Mind Shuffle. From here, they'll activate Mind Shuffle and use the effect on field in order to go ahead and grab, then banish a copy of Skull Archfiend of Chaos, at which point they'll scoop. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, just like the Invoked decks of old, going second is going to require some non-engine, and we are playing against a deck which we will need a lot of non-engine for. Our opponent's on White Forest and Jelki, pretty interesting evolution of the deck, and they're going to begin with a copy of Sylvie for Witch of the White Forest. They'll activate the effect, then they'll activate the Elzet from hand, summoning into their side of the field, at which point we'll activate a Fulos. They'll activate Angelki Problem, then activate the effect, at which point we'll activate a second Fulos, so we get 2 draws off the activation of this enlisted. They will set a Bastion, then activate the Bastion in order to shat their pants. We'll Ash Blossom that effect, and then afterwards they're going to go for the Diabells in their grip. They'll activate the effect of the Diabells in order to send a copy of Curse of Diabell, grab themselves a Philia Diabell, then Philia Diabell for Vengeance. This is pretty good into a copy of Fulos, I gotta be honest. They will increase the attack of their monsters, set a card, and pass. We will draw for turn. It's a shifter, a little too late. We'll begin with a Sacred Spirit Sword Iwas in order to summon an Iwas Divine Spirit of the Law from the deck. We'll use its effect in order to grab new Alistair, and then normal summon it, activating its effect banishing a Raijin. Afterwards, we'll go Artemis into Invocation in order to make a Soul Wrath into an SP Little Knight. We will banish this copy of Shat Ranga. They will go ahead and pop it. We'll chain SP Little Knight, targeting the Diabells, and now their board is at least vulnerable. Let's go for Magical Meltdown here. Now that we are unlocked, we'll go Alistair the Invoker, activate its effect for an Invocation, then Invocation once again in order to make a Babaron. We'll activate the effect of the Babaron in order to grab a Viracom, then afterwards we can trigger the effect of the Invocation in order to add back Alistair. Here we can use Alistair's effect in order to increase the attack of the Babaron, then summon out the Viracom, activating its effect in order to set an Invocation Sword. Finally, we'll go Invocation Sword in order to make a Hyper-Invoked Aeon and get Banishing. Let's get everything we don't know, then activate the effect of the Sword in Graveyard for another Invocation, which enables us to fusion summon an Oceanus in the EMZ. Finally, Soul Wrath can bring out another Hyper-Invoked Aeon, and we can start cleaning up the remainder of our opponent's life points. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Cool Tune, and we are going first. They've got a Fidralis Harmonia and access to a powerful monster, courtesy of Clip, but we've got a lot of extension here. We're going to begin with a Magical Meltdown. They will clip for a copy of Crackle, and we will go ahead and grab ourselves an Alistair the Invoker. They're going to Crackle and Q and reveal off the top of the deck a bunch of really powerful cards. They're going to put the Magical Meltdown on top of the deck and banish the Sorath, which is pretty powerful, but we'll go for Sacred Spirit Sword Iwas for Iwas here to use its effect in order to get a copy of Alistair the Reminiscent. We'll activate its effect for Invoked ryu-ge, at which point our opponent's going to go for the Harmonia. They will pop our Alistair, but we do get to resolve it. We'll go Sword here in order to put everything back, then activate Hyper Invoked Aeon in order to clear the board and take stuff out of the extra deck. Next, we can go Viracom in order to activate its effect and set a copy of Invocation. We'll normal summon Alistair to, well, you guessed it, grab another, and then we'll activate the Soulwrath and Graveyard in order to go into an Mbakaba, activate Invocation to go into an Oceanus, and then Invocation to shuffle back so we have a monster in grip. Finally, we'll activate the effect of the Alistair the Invoker and Invocation one final time for a Caliga before activating the effect of the Sword to retain an Invocation in our hand. We'll set a Super Poly and pass back to our opponent, who will go for a Pot of Desires, immediately get stopped by the Makaba, and look at a couple of non-engine and pass. We'll draw for turn, and this should be all she wrote. From here, we can use the effect of the Invocation in the graveyard to cycle back this copy of Alistair, activate Super Polymerization for a laugh, go for Elysium, normal summon Alistair, activate its effect in order to grab a copy of Invocation, then Invocation away for a copy of Aegis. We'll trigger the effect of the Aegis in order to send the Ash Blossom and go to battle for 2k, 25, and well over lethal. So, pretty standard game one. It's now time for game two, where we're going second, which is not ideal. You can see one of the problems with this deck in real time. It has a lot of cards that do the same thing. Our opponent's going to go Draw Phase, KTS for Rico, for Rotary, for Trackmaker, Trackmaker 1, Rotary 2, and the cat's out of the bag. We have Super Polymerization. That's pretty frightening stuff. They're going to do what they can to avoid the best card of 2017, but Synchro Overtake for Mix might be up their alley. They'll get a second copy of Rotary here for the extra normal without having to commit to the JJ, and then normal summon a copy of Q to use its effect in order to summon a Clip from deck. From here, they can go into Crackle, use the Crackle effect and the Clip effect, and the Q effect, trying to sniff out that powerful fusion monster. They're going to banish our Sacred Sword and put our Magical Meltdown on the bottom, and though they do take it, of course, it is going to return at the end step. We'll draw for turn, and okay, that's a great rip. We're going to go for Iwas here. They're going to go for KTS. They will add and then perform a Synchro Summon. We will add, then they'll activate Crackle, which allows us to respond with Super Poly, turning off their ability to droll here, which is great news. Afterwards, we'll go for the Triple Tactics Talents for the draw. They will droll now. We will Called by the Grave it, at least, and then afterwards we can go for Pot of Sloth. We need some better stuff here. We're going to go for Alistair the Invoker here. We're going to grab from deck to hand an Invocation, then we'll Alistair the Reminiscent, our sea monster of Theseus. From this position, we can activate the effect into an Infinite Impermanence, but guess what dodges that? It's the second Super Polymerization, this time for an Oceanus. We'll grab Sword, activate the effect of the Sword in order to shuffle back for an Aegis, and just go battle 2k, 3k, and 32 will do it, and we walk with a 2-0. So we're back with the deck, and yeah, be grateful you got what you got. There were a lot of Oceanus pass auto wins that were just unwatchable. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, new cards are crazy. Reminiscent gives access to new combo lines, interruption plays. It's less reliant on normal summoning Alistair. The new fusions give the deck a pure end board. Invocation Sword is just a very, very, very broken card that gives you incredible access to resources. It pairs well with the original Invocation. The value is ridiculous. 2, Oceanus's Floodgate effect specifically just shuts a whole bunch of decks out of the game. It's a die-fi when he's in the EMZ, and often you can make it through a lot of interruption. He's not one of the difficult ones to get to. So if you get hand-trapped 3 times by Cool Tune and then you pass on Oceanus, you just kind of win the game as long as you've got a hand trap or a Super Poly left. And 3, Hyper Invoked Aeon is one of the most frustrating and powerful cards ever printed. It's incredible into everything. It's good into Branded. It eats their graveyard setup with Invocation. Its on-field effect is a huge amount of removal from both the field and the yard, and it can just take out some decks just because it rips 3 from the extra. This, paired with the deck having a great matchup into a lot of the current meta, puts it as a really common staple you have to think about when you're deck building. And then, of course, because of Invocation Sword, you're going to have to play around it frequently with Shifter and Di-Fi. And the cons. 1, this deck has a fair amount of redundancy built into it. That sounds like a positive, but it's also a pretty big negative. Iwas access is essential, but sometimes you're going to have a hand of like multiple Meltdowns and multiple Alistairs the Invoker, and you won't really be able to do anything if you're interrupted. Invocation can still be belled if Meltdown isn't up, which puts you in these like weird situations where you have one but don't get to resolve it in a powerful way, and the rest of your hand is just like Iwas searchers. 2, despite being able to play Super Poly, your end boards are also really weak to Super Poly. Any 2 fusions will just become Hyper Invoked Aeon. You could end on like Oceanus and Gamma Summon pass out of the board, but that's really weak into non-Super Poly hands. It's a dilemma. And 3, shuffling cards out of your graveyard can really hinder your plays. Dogma Fusion is a really dangerous piece to fight against as, you can remove it with Aeon. It can remove your graveyard pieces mid-combo and put you in weird spots. If you don't like ending on Floodgates going first, this deck basically just has that as its end goal now, so that's like a little bonus con as well. Overall, the deck is a pretty good meta pick and looks to have a lot of potential in the coming few formats. Just don't expect to make very many friends playing the strategy. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These 10-minute testings are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have spent a lot of money to be mentioned at the end of this video. Those are Van, Unban Meowmoo, Absolutely Fran, Elena Tincher, Allison Elliott, Ally, Astagafa Jas, APK Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Cap, Cool Name, Daniel Howell, Dark Rebel XYZ, El Gravo, Emiliano Deverio, NB Adams, Erarizuku, Fabrizio Petroli, Galactic Joey, Pergalicious, Jackie Z, JP, Cole Offline, Legal Rights, Lucas Rosas, Luis Hernandez, Matthew M. Derezo, MBT Hablando en Español, MBT Plema Dolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho, Pombo, Pyramid Artisan Fieldcloths TCG Accessories, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shifter.mp8, Sly Ninja 43, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Who's Nick, Yeth, Yoven and Nunik, Yuki Kazami, Yuki, and Zircon Sun. Couldn't have done it without you.